Hello everybody, John Sholey with Dragonfly. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to get started with your IAP. We literally are going to walk through the entire Dragonfly IAP suite and what everything does with it. Now this is going to be a long video, but we're going to put some indexes in it so that you can jump around. That way, if you forget how to use any of the forms, you can just jump to the section that's applicable to you. Okay? Let's get started. Now remember, Dragonfly doesn't need the internet to produce an IAP. However, some of the tool sets use them for greater functionality. Also, you want the internet so that you can check to see if there's any updates to the software. Let's start Dragonfly. Now when Dragonfly starts specific for the incident action plan, you will be given the start screen. There's three ways that we can start an IAP. We can literally start and select Incident Action Plan, double click on the new project. You can also open a new project from here. We can close that, we can click New here, or we can click on the little radial here, the little dragonfly circle, and create new IAP. Now, most people, this is how they do the IAP production. Remember, check for updates. Double click, select Instant Action Plan, double click New Project. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at these instructions. We've made it pretty simple that all you have to do is follow the instruction sets. Step 1, select where the Instant Action Plan is going to be stored. At this time, all of your Dragonfly IAPs are going to be stored in a local Instant Action Plan, which means they're not going to go up to the cloud service. In the near future, you will be able to subscribe to Dragonfly SaaS, Software as a Service, and that will be a true cloud IAP tool. So it'll default to the location. Now we're going to name the file. Now in this case, this file name is going to be called Training IAP. Actually, let's just call it Let's Get Started. So our project name is set. Please be advised, this is what your file will also use for its naming convention. Now, if I were to go to step 3 and read that, it says for locally stored instant action plans, select a director or folder to store the project files. Leave blank for default folder. That means if I were to get started right now and double click on any of these tool sets, the software will create a file storage path that is defaulted for the program. For those of you that haven't read the manual, what does that mean? That means that it will automatically create the IAP file under Documents, Dragonfly, and there'll be an Incident Action Plan folder. Now, if the default location is not where you want it to go, simply go in and click on Browse. Now, if you want to put it into a specific place, browse to that location and click OK. So this means you can store your IAPs on an attached external storage device, such as thumb drives or external hard drives, or you can put it onto a network folder. One of the key selling points of Dragonfly is cooperative plan development. Simply, what that means is you can drop the file location, and as long as an individual has a Dragonfly license of their own, you can all access that IAP or that file at the same time and work on your portions of it. Incidentally, browsing for folder and dropping the location is how you start that process if you want to do cooperative mode. We'll talk about that more in the future. So in this case, I just want it to go to the default. Now, some of you already know this, but there are basically 4 flavors of your incident action planning that you can do. The first one is called NIMS, and this is an all hazards style of tool set. It references the 2010 ICS forms and some of the most modern functionalities that are related to all hazards response. Next is what's called area command. Now, when we build out our future videos, we will have a section called Area Command, EOC, and HICS. So yes, your Dragonfly software can create all hazards plan, area command plans, EOC center type plans, and hospital incident command. Today, we're just going to learn the basics. The good news is what we learn in these basics transfer over into the other. So the order of operations on how we do things, those transfer over to any of the other modules. So you don't have to learn a whole bunch of different ways to do one thing. You just learn it once and it applies. Let's get started here. Let's double click. And initially what will happen is you will be brought to what's called the organization chart view. Every incident that we create the software always develops what's called the incident commander. Now, as you can see, under incident commander, there's a text statement in there that says need resource. If you remember from the preferences video we watched, I set mine to be determined box to the need resource. And whenever an assignment is turned on without giving it a specific name, what I put into that text box goes in here. Now, let's take a look a little more closely at how we access plans from inside. So we just saw how we created a new plan from scratch. Now, how about if we want to create a new plan within? Again, just access the new. Or maybe we have a file that we want to access. We can click open. Now, there's 3 places to do all this. You can do it from here, here, or initially where you start the incident. Now, I like to talk about IAP production in the way that the manual is designed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through some of these icons and what they actually do in the software for you. If you have a manual, you can choose to follow along, but this video will follow the layout of the manual. And I like to call this part of the video, hey, what does this button do? Clicking on New will open up the new IAP. Clicking on Open will allow you to browse to the IAP that you have in your file set. By the way, this is the default file path. So I'm going to double click that. Get back to Let's Get Started. Now, the Backup tab allows you to create a backup immediately. This is a manual backup. The reason for this as a tool set in here is you may have made a lot of changes, and rather than delete out those changes one by one, you can revert back to a specific time. To access your backups, click the Restore. And you'll notice for each time that I clicked on Backup, a special file was created. And as you can see by the naming convention, it takes the file name and then gives you a date and timestamp so you can roll back. If you want to open that, you just select it and click Open, and it loads that view. Next is Purge. We can go through and purge out these files. We can take 1, we can take 2, we can take all of them and delete them. Don't worry, this does not delete your initial IAP. It just deletes the copies. Now again, referencing back to the preferences video, we also talked about the auto backup. Keep an eye on your restoration points, because if your auto backup is turned on, whatever that time interval in the background, your software will be developing backups. And if you let it go and go and go, you could overload the memory in some of your computer sets. So periodically purge out those IAPs. The next tool in here is copyrighted by the Blue Cell. The Blue Cell is our premier training company. What this is called is a complexity analysis tool. By clicking on this, there's a description of what the tool actually does. And it is a decision-making threat assessment tool. Accept the statement and the tool will open up. And you can go through and select these various critical waypoints in determining if the resources you're using to manage the incident are adequate. So in this case, you just interact with the form and a scoring system starts kicking up and makes recommendations to you. This is a very non-biased way to review your team and what you're doing and figuring out, do you have the right people and process available. Now, any form that we create in Dragonfly is available to be printed from the left corner section. So I can click this immediately and I'll have a printable, ready to go complexity analysis. Now this is a tool that you'll see used in a lot of the Blue Cells training. Okay, the next tool we're going to look at is Start. When we click on the Start page, we are really opening up what's called the Field Command Quick Start page. What this is the most common positions that are referenced in NIMS ICS to include some unified commanders. So basically, think of this as every position that you've seen on a NIMS ICS chart available to you at the drop of a hat. The thought process is a person would put in the incident name, the date initiated, the date it was initiated, and then the time. And now you can set your operational period. So this is going to go for 12 hours starting tomorrow, 0600 to the same day, 1800. And this is a really fast way for you to build your IEP. One of the reasons why you have this software is you recognized how efficient your work can actually be utilizing it. This Field Command Quick Start page talks to numerous ICS forms in addition to the org chart. In this case, I know I need a safety officer, so I'm going to double click on the position and then I'm going to set as to be determined. Now, we will get more in depth on using the Field Command Quick Start page here shortly. Just wanted you to see it. Next is an icon called Org Chart. What it does is it brings you to the organization chart view. The next tool we're going to look at is what's called the Planning P. Inside of Dragonfly is a tool that is interactive. It's called the Planning P. Those of you that have attended training understand this tool. What we did is we made it a little more simpler for somebody to get started with their IAP and stay on track as far as what is needing to be done next. So initially we have an incident or threat. We get notified, then we respond, and then some decision making is done. In this case, it's going to reference the ICS 201. If I click on this button, the 201 will open, and we can actually go through and fill out the 201. So, reviewing the Planning P, as you move through, different forms will open up for you based on where you're at in the incident tempo. It's a great tool for us to use. That's the Planning P. Next is what's called formatting. Formatting allows you to undo, redo, bullet additions, change font, justification, bold, underline, italicize, and then adjust the font. Next is what's called Print IAP. This tool is mainly used when it's time to produce the complete IAP with all its forms and all its articles. You can also jump out here if you need a specific form. Now, this tool is really flexible for different types of organizations. Some organizations just use cover pages. Some organizations use a cover page with a photo. Let's see how easy it is to do that. Click on Cover Page with Photo, click on Import, go to your pictures, pick the incident picture that you want, and hit Open. As you can see, that photo will now be used as part of the cover page. We can preview that. Let's print the IAP. There we go. Now that's just the cover page. I'm going to close this window. In here we can also include a table of contents, and then we have a little caveat related to ICS 204s. Some of our customers use an ICS 204 summary, some use a standard. So you have that option. If you want to include the 201, the 202, 3, 5, 5A, 6, or any of the other form sets in, including the weather report, all you have to do is check them and then add your 204s, what's called the 213RRs, and any 214s. Printing of the IAP can be done in print preview mode, where everything's put in. Now understand, none of these are really filled out, but as you can see, the software moves very quickly in producing your articles. You can also produce it to PDF, Word, TIFF, or HTML. The reason why we allow the HTML production is because when you look at some of the other systems that are out there, we want to be able to share our IAP, but not allow somebody to manipulate it. This is a very good tool set to give to a web EOC user. You can give them the HTML file link, they can put it into their bulletin board, and when they click on it, they will see your IAP. So it's as simple as clicking HTML and then naming it. Now, when you're utilizing mobile devices, some of you will know what I'm talking about here next. Have you ever tried to open a PDF with your phone? There's a lot of zooming and scrolling and everything else, and it becomes problematic. Well, if you kick out the IAP in an HTML and then email that link to somebody who's viewing it on a phone or a tablet, what that will do is actually open it as a web page. So in this case, I'm going to look for my IAP called Let's Get Started. As you can see, it is native inside of a web page. So now I just have to scroll and see the things that I want to see. Okay? So that is how we print the IAP. Next, let's take a look at the weather tool. Now, these next tool sets require an internet connection for the Incident Action Plan in order to use them. So if you do not have the internet, these will not work. So let's take a look at the weather browser. You can use this default weather browser, or if you remember from the preference features, you can change this to whichever one you want. In this case, I'm going to change it to some weather located in the Kansas City metropolitan area. So, current conditions are these. Now, for my weather report and forecast, I want to use some of this information. So, there's different ways we can do this. We can do a direct copy and paste, or we can utilize some built-in tools that are inside of our software. The snipping tool is a powerful tool that is built into Windows. So I'm going to create an actual new snipping, or copying, cutting, and pasting. So I want this information, and I'm just going to copy it, and on the left side I'm going to right click and I'm going to paste that. Then I'll hit enter. Now, I want to get some of the rest of the information that's here. In this case, I want to grab this detailed forecast all the way out to Friday or Thursday night. I can do that. I can copy and paste it, or I can highlight directly. In this case, I'm going to go through and capture this detail. And now I'm going to copy and paste that. And then I can print it. So there's our detailed forecast, our current conditions, and away you go. Now remember, whatever is set here in a cooperative environment, that will be what everybody else sees. So any of these forms and any of these settings that I have running will allow other users in a cooperative mode to see. And we'll learn more about doing that in the future. let's take a look at the EMAP. Let's get rid of this section here, and let's get rid of that. The EMAP is a tool, a basic GIS tool, that we have input into Dragonfly. Now, I believe if we look at our setup and our map is our actual general settings, we should be at a very high altitude above Florida. And if I were to zoom in, I should be zooming in on Florida. Now you notice how fast this works. This is actually a Google API that we're going for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill down and I'm going to look at Arcadia. And this is a Google map. Now you'll notice we have a lot of built-in tools for this GIS tool set. I can actually do a search by address. I can also put in a coordinate. I can change what maps are available. And by the way, we have quite a few of these loaded up for you to use. I want to change it to Google Hybrid Map. So I select it and hit switch. Now I've got some data that came in from 2015. And I can do different things. I'm really interested in this structure. Now, when we're doing our pre-planning, we're talking about using the map system that is built into Dragonfly. Here's an example. Dragonfly comes with some small scale icons. If you have specific icons that you want put into your license, we can do that for you. Now, in the future, we will be replacing this tool set with a much more comprehensive mapping tool. Now, if you require an offline mapping tool for Dragonfly, we can have a custom development discussion for that as well. But in this case, I'm going to detail that this little icon is a chicken farm. And then I can do different things with these icons. I can actually change their behavior by using right clicks. I could always do this, mouse over. Now in this case, we're going to utilize the map to detail out some of our resources and where they currently are located. So in this case, I'm going to take this little fire icon and I'm going to drop it here, and then I'm going to drop another one here. Then I'm going to grab a police officer and I'm going to put them here, here, and here. Now, I can also go in here and say things like this. So what I'm doing is giving anybody who's viewing this a detailed information about who is there. Now we can add in people's names, whatever we want. Click OK. Now we can go in and tell this label to act a certain way, and then when we hover over it, you can do that with any of these icons. Pretty cool. We can take an image, a picture, save it, and then we will have it. So that is EMAP. Now let's look at what's called mind map. Mind map is a critical decision-making tool that uses visual relationships to help explain or design ideas, brainstorming. So at the core here is this issue called Let's Get Started Day 1. We can hit on the strategy and then, or what we call priorities, and we can adjust these. So life safety. Next, we have another one. Oops, let's get rid of that. I accidentally put too many in there. And we'll drag this over, and we have this new strategy that is called incident stabilization. Okay, and then last we have this next strategy or priority, which is called environmental conservation. And then what we can do is develop some objectives related to those. This is very helpful when you're working with people you've never worked with before. And it also lays out exactly what you expect to have done. So in this case, you have the UCIC meeting, they set the strategy, then the objectives start getting developed. Now we can develop the tactics. And all I'm doing is selecting and adding. Safety officer gets involved, we have some safety concerns. And then what we can do is add resources. You can arrange these differently. You can collapse them. You can actually drag and drop them around. And that's the mind map. Now let's take a look at our next tool, which is the map tool. This is a tool that allows us to place a URL into and take advantage of some online GIS services or any other website that you want to see inside of Dragonfly. In this case, we have Pictometry Online. This allows a one-stop shop for the user. Next tool to look at is the Operational Periods tool, specifically the Op Period Manager. This is where we would go to clone or duplicate an existing operational period or create contingency plans that are inside of our IAP. Very simple tool to use. Create new op period, designate that period, select which op period you want to copy, hit apply. Then when it's time to open that op period, you just select which one you want, hit open, and you'll notice up here which op period is open. Now I need to delete these out because we're going to be using this IAP later. So I'm going to go in, select, delete, yes. Select, delete, delete, yes. Now, let's move on to our next tool set, which is under the chart tools. This chart tool are to be used exclusively with the organization chart. What it allows us to do is change the view of our org chart and then also create custom print jobs, such as an org chart that needs to be put up on a wall that is able to be seen clearly across the room. You would use a plot printer to do that. This is where we can set up and build custom print jobs for our org chart. Next on our list is the Salamander tools. You'll see that we have 5 icons that represent the tag, track, and report tool sets that belong to the Intelligent Accountability. This is here exclusively for our Salamander Intelligent Accountability customers. One of the main selling points about Dragonfly is it's able to reach out and talk to Salamander and bring in the incident data that is going on at the tactical level if necessary. We'll learn more about this in the future. One of the tools that is built into Dragonfly additionally is the Pre-Planner tool. This is an NFPA 1620 compliant pre-planning tool. To access your pre-plans, you just click on this tab and off you go. This next tab is grayed out, but that's the exercise planner. What it's used for is to create HCEP compliant exercise tools, similar to the HCEP toolkit that was available a couple years ago, which is not really available anymore. This is where we would go to create or edit existing exercises. Next, we're going to take a look at the Setup tab. The Setup tab is where you'll find the preferences, which we've already seen in this video, and then also our rosters. Dragonfly allows you to roster and import personnel, hospitals, ambulances, and communications. We'll learn a lot about how to use this tool in the future. Next is the Help button. This is where we can find information about what version of software we have, where we can also go in our method 2 for updating. And then this is how we also activate our services and activate specifically Dragonfly's license. Now on the left, we have our Forms tabs. It's a slide out. This slide out can be used simply by hovering over it, or if you want to pin it, you can hit that little thumbnail, and you can actually custom anchor this wherever you want just by dragging and dropping. And if you unpin it, it'll always be there until you change it again. On the right side, we have a little tab here that allows you to send out SMS messages. Now, this is an additional cost to Dragonfly. If a user wants to take advantage of this feature set, then we'll have to put you in contact with our sales team. This is the roster slide out. This is where we reach out and see and use our rostered personnel. Next is the Resource Manager Web slide out. Works similar to the roster tool. And then the Structure tab. This Structure tab specifically is used in the org chart. It's a really fast way for us to add positions into our IAPs. Very straightforward and simple. Now, it is available to be seen throughout the IAP, but it's only functional when the org chart is open. So that concludes the Let's Get Started portion of the video series. The next video we're going to take a look at deals with how we actually build the ICS forms. Have a great day. Bye-bye.